Hey everyone, today I'm going to teach you how to play Shen against 10 different matchups in the top lane, and hopefully I'll be able to teach you what you're supposed to do in your games. Now let's get into it. The first one we have is Shen versus Malphite, as we can see right here. Against the Malphite, generally what you want to do is you want to try and push early game. Pushing early game is very beneficial. You want to figure out where the enemy jungler starts, very important, so you need to know if he starts red or a bottom, blue buff. Now once you figure out where he's starting, then you can start adapting your strategy. Generally what you want to do is you want to hit the minions about 2 times, maybe 3. But if you do 3 hits, it have to be different minions, not the same minion. And then you want to have at least 1 or 2 hits above him in the minions for wave manipulation, right? So if he hits a minion once, you want to hit it as well while you're still 2 hits up in damage. That way you're going to push a little bit faster than him, but you're not going to be pushing too fast. And then what your goal is to beat him as hard as possible because you're much stronger than him, especially early game. You'll be much stronger than Malphite till level 6. Which means you have to abuse that time window you have until level 6. So push him in, trade with him all the time, get your sword behind him. One little sneaky trick you can do is you can walk into lane early, put your sword behind him, then walk back, and every time he goes up to a minion, you want to be ready and you want to slap him. First the sword and then auto, right? And then back. Do the same, repeat, get the sword up, and you should be good to go. Next matchup is against Camille. In this matchup, it's much more jungle dependent. At this point, you still want to figure out where the jungler is. If he's topside, you can push. If he's bot side, you don't want to push. Now, what you want to do in this matchup specifically is you want to abuse your passive, the shield you get from your passive every time you use an ability. You want to use that and time it every single time Camille uses her W. If you can also taunt away from the W, but your goal is to not take damage from the W. That way you can make her go out of mana before she manages to kill you with her W, which means you should be able to win. Sure, you can still trade and all that, it's all good, but that's the main thing you gotta look out for. Next, Mordekaiser versus Shen. In this matchup is also a very interesting one. Again, you gotta figure out where the jungler starts, very important. Now in this matchup, I would really recommend you to tell your jungler to try and gank top early. Also, another thing I'd recommend is you need to be 1 hit up on minions, maybe 2 at all times. And then what you need to do, just like Malphite, you need to try and kill him early. Now, one thing to note is when you're going up to a minion, he's going to Q because he wants to damage you, right? So you're going up to a minion, he Qs. What you can do, instead of going up to try and last it, you walk upwards. Like imagine you're walking up a bit like this in a path, and then before you go to last it, you go down. So you're not actually going to try and last it, you go downwards. Then he Qs forward and it misses, and then you go up and taunt him and trade with him. Now you should be able to win all trades as long as you don't get hit by the Q initially before it even happens, and as long as you don't get hit by the W which pulls you in. One thing to note is if you take auto attacks, his passive is going to proc faster after 3 hits, so that's really dangerous. So you should W to block his auto attacks and you should be good for short trades. Alright, let's do the next one. Ornn versus Shen. This matchup is also very interesting. Again, figure out where the enemy jungler starts, very important. Now again, you do want to push if you can, but if the jungler starts bot side, the enemy jungler, then you have to be a bit more careful. Now, how you want to play this matchup is every time you go up to last hit, what you're going to do is you're going to circle to either side after going up to it instead of last hitting. Ornn is going to fire out his Q, and then you're dodging it, hopefully. If you do dodge it, you can trade with him. If you don't dodge it, you can't trade with him because you're going to be slowed and you're going to have a hard time. Now, another thing to note in this matchup is if he ever uses his W, taunt right through him if you're quick enough. The W is not going to proc the passive, which he snucks you up or smacks you afterwards. By doing so, you're going to win every trade. Now, another thing to note is after 6, you're going to generally lose, so you have to be a little bit careful, but until 6, you're more strong than him if you do it properly. After 6, the best way to beat him is to taunt through his ultimate so he can't ultimate you. Let's get into the next one. Aatrox versus Shen. This matchup is very difficult. Very difficult matchup. It can be won, but you have to outplay Aatrox really hard. Aatrox is extremely favored early. You will outscale him and you have better map pressure with ultimate, so you don't need to beat him. Now, here's the thing. If you do believe you're better mechanically than him, try and dodge his abilities and then taunt through him after he uses them. One thing to note is Aatrox have 4-second window after he uses a Q. So if you use the first Q and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, then his Q, he can't use it again if you didn't use it in that window. And then right there, you want to taunt him if he ever does that. That's a massive mistake that a lot of Aatrox players do. And you can taunt him right there, trade him really hard, and you're going to demolish him. But overall, this matchup is difficult. The lane manipulation, you're probably going to be pushed in, and that's okay. Your goal is survival and team pressure. However, if you do find out that he's not very good mechanically, he's missing a lot of Qs, then try and just dodge them and then trade with him afterwards. You can win it. Next up, we have Kayle versus Shen. In this game, we're going to talk a little bit different. Now, you want to play around your jungler. Not so much their jungler. Sure, you always want to play a little bit about enemy jungler, but your goal is to kill Kayle. Your goal is to dominate her. Now, there's two ways to do this. One way is, let's say you have a really strong jungler, and he's starting bot side on the map. Then what you can do is you can keep the wave exactly in the middle. Try and keep it exactly in the middle. So every time she hits, you hit. Every time, yeah, exactly, right? Equal hits on the minions. Now, what this does is if your jungler comes top level 3 or 4, then the wave is going to be in the middle right here, and she's going to be extremely dangerous. Like, it's a really dangerous position for her. However, the problem with this strategy is it's extremely high risk. If their jungler is stronger and their jungler starts bottom on their blue buff, and then he walks all the way top, well, she's going to kill you easily too, right? You're a little bit safer than her, and you're a little bit stronger than her, so that's one thing to note. Now, for trading with her specifically, your goal is going to be to dodge her skill shot. I don't remember it. I think it's the Q. Dodge the skill shot, fire straight out. If you dodge it, you want to trade. If you don't dodge it, you don't want to trade. You can trade before she launches it as well. That does work. But the main goal is to try and dodge it and then trade with her. One thing you can do is you can force her to use it by standing close to the minions. She's going to use it to last hit because she doesn't want to walk through your sword into the minion. And then right after, you sidestep that and then taunt, and you can get really good trades. Should be brilliant. Next up, we have Shen versus Darius. This is one scary motherfucker. It's also a pretty rough matchup, especially in the early game. Now, in this matchup, one thing you want to note is your W blocks his W, so that's really huge. That's really important to note. In this matchup, you want to have amazing micro. And with amazing micro, I'm talking about whenever you want to fight him, you want to be really close to him, but you don't want to be close enough for him to W hit you. So basically, just outside of the range of his W, which I think it's 175 range. And then, if he can activate it, and then you can step back and he doesn't use it, then afterwards you can trade with him. Generally, how this matchup goes is he's going to push you in at all times. Your goal is not really to fight him, because you're not stronger than him. You don't want to fight him too much unless you get jungle help. Or unless he messes up really badly. And then your goal is, honestly, just be a scaling champion that does a lot of stuff for her team after level 6. And if you can do that, you're going to win this matchup. Next up, we have Shen versus Jax. This matchup is very, very crucial. Now, there's a lot of small mechanical things you gotta know in this matchup. First, Shen versus Jax is a winning matchup. Important to note. Second, when Shen taunts max range, it's 280 milliseconds, which means he can react to it really easy. Everybody can react to it. However, if you're halfway through the taunt range, then it's almost impossible for the enemy to react in time, which means you want to try and be halfway with the taunt range, and then you want to use it on the opponent. If you can do that, he can't react in time. And then you should be winning the trades against him. Now, one thing to note, level 1, you do want to push, but Jax have the advantage because of his E at pushing. So what you want to try and do is similar to the Darius matchup. You want to walk close enough for him to activate his stuff without being able to auto-attack you. And then when you're kiting his E ability, your goal is to walk through your minions. If you're going through the minions, there's a high chance he's going to get blocked by the minions, and then he might miss the E altogether. Now, you got to know the E cooldown on Jax's E, and then you can trade in that window. You should be able to win it, and jungle ganks are extremely helpful in this matchup, as it's super snowballing. If Jax gets a hit, start playing really passive, he's going to dominate you. If you do get hit, just keep playing aggressive, and you're going to dominate him. Very snowballing matchup. Next up, Shen versus Fiora. This matchup is also a very interesting one. Jungle is semi-important here. Your jungle is really important. There's not so much. Again, one thing you want to do here is you do want to push if you can, but it's not necessary. Now, what is necessary is you don't ever want to get hit by a Vital. So if a Vital is close to her, don't go for the CS. Just walk back and reset it, or just wait it out. You don't want to hit Vitals. Very important. Second, you want to use your Q through her and then just damage her. You want to be close to her at all times, kind of, without her being able to hit the Vitals. Now, one thing to note, if you just walk up to her and you hit her, she can Q through you, and then she can hit the Vital behind you, the one in front of you, ultimate, and kill you. So, what you want to do at all times is you're kind of sneaking back and forth. You're trying to bait out her Q, and then once she Qs, you reactionary started hitting her back. Because you're much stronger if you react, but if you go first, that's a little bit more dangerous. Now again, similar to the Jax one, if you can taunt her without her being able to react, you win it. But you have to be close to her, and you have to hope she doesn't predict it. So it's really risky to use, but you can use the taunt aggressively, and you can make kills with it. So be really, really cautious about it, but don't completely count it out. Next up, we have Shen versus RIven. How does the matchup go? Well, you should actually win this matchup. Now, one thing to note is you don't want to take the third Q. You want to be careful of that one, so try and bait it out. It should be rather simple because you know exactly when she wants to use it. If you're pushing, you win. If she's pushing, she slightly wins early. So you gotta be careful about that one. Jungle ganks are extremely good here because she's super easy to kill. She's gonna overextend all the time. And overall, try and call your jungle up here. Again, with the waves, I would recommend being 2 hits up at all times. If you can, for the first 3 waves. And then pushing in the third one. After the third wave, I would recommend you either to base or to sit in the bush up here. And then just wait for it to push back out. Now, you want to sit in this bush, especially if you're getting a jungle gank. Because then, ooh, you know what? She might just push right out like crazy person. And then you're sitting in the bush and you're ready to just taunt her and kill her. It's a very, very good strategy. Anyways, I hope you guys learned a lot from this matchup guide. Leave a like. Tell me guys what you think in the comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.